Welcome to the Winner's Circle, everybody. Dave Little with you. I'm joined by Nick Salvi and Les Stark, and these are two guys who knew Dave Brower for an awful long time. We just saw the in memory of Dave Brower trot, and I tell you what, Nick, I think that he would have admired the class level of the horses he just saw.
Dave would have been thrilled with everything that went on tonight. The celebration of life was fantastic, and he loved good horse racing as much as anybody.
Now, Les, you had a long association with Dave. How long does it go back?
Goes back to the late 80s when I met Dave and his father, who would come up to the grandstand when I would come up each night, and we developed a great relationship.
Now, Dave was a guy who used to get on me for not really being a qualifier guy, and I used to tease him about that all the time. But you and he spent an awful lot of time at the qualifiers, and he thought it was a very important part of the process, and I think you agree.
Well, Dave, lucky or not, he got hooked up with a bunch of us handicappers / degenerates, and he learned a lot about the qualifying races and their importance through association with the guys that we hang around with.
Now back to you, Nick. Obviously I sat next to Dave every Friday and Saturday for the last 5 years, know him about 25 years, but your association with him goes back even longer, and you didn't necessarily spend a lot of time with him here, not that you didn't, but out of town as well.
I think Les introduced me to Brower. I had a stable of horses here in '88. Dave would have been, 19? He was just kind of getting launched upstairs. And the horse players, to me, are very Damon Runyon-esque. They're usually very smart guys who have chosen kind of an off-the-beaten-path lifestyle, but they're really good at it. But it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time, and those are the things Dave was really willing to do. I mean, he was a perfectionist, you know that. His preparation was second to none, and those mornings at the qualifiers and the baby races was my favorite day of the week. Those are my favorite memories. We'd go watch the races, go have lunch. They were great times.
Now, did you spend a lot of time with Dave at the Red Mile?
That was probably where I saw Dave more, yeah, because I'm in and out here, and he's usually busy. So when he got to Lexington this fall, he was kind of beat up from the little brown jug, and he gradually started to feel better, I thought, and act more like himself. And yeah, we were out to dinner a couple times with friends, Gordon Waterstone, Gabe, all the guys that knew Brower. And one quick thing is, like, I was doing TV at the Red Mile before Dave came, and he and Gabe had a great rapport, and the show got way better when Brower came and did it. And I saw once the Eagles, they did kind of a retro, and Glenn Fry was the voice, the singer, and eventually it was Henley, and they said to Glenn Fry, like, why don't you sing anymore? And he said, well, we got Henley. We had Brower.
Now, Les, I always like to tease Dave. He always considered himself a connoisseur of great food. I used to call him a food snob. Which end of the spectrum do you fall on?
Well, I'm more of a, I'll eat what you put in front of me kind of guy, but Dave was excellent. He was a good chef, and he really enjoyed his food. He would take pictures of the food when we go out for hundreds of lunches that we had over the years.
Now all those mornings that you used to come out here, not only for the qualifiers, but for the baby races as well, he really wanted to be a part of that, and yet every time I got my hands on him by 5 o'clock that afternoon, he'd always say, oh, I'm so dead tired. I mean, what am I going to do?
We wore him out, between watching 20 baby races and then going for lunch and having to listen to Nick and my stories. And, it was a tough day for him, but he persevered. Dave was 100% prepared. That's why I think he was so good on television. There was nothing that was going to fool him. He was all ready for whatever was going to occur.
Nick, in your opinion, what are the things that Dave Brower did best in the harness racing world?
Dave had a great presence on television. As Gabe said earlier, he could have done anything. His preparation, as Les said, was second to none. That was a big part of it. He had great ease. I think people that he interviewed felt comfortable with him, and his rapport with whomever was in your seat was always really good. Those are things you can't teach. Those are gifts that Brower had. We're lucky he loved harness racing. That's our good fortune.
It's going to be very, very tough to replace Dave Brower. How do you replace, it's inconceivable to me, all the things that he did well. I mean, he did so many things well, didn't he, Les?
He sure did. His ease on TV, his knowledge, because he was in the backstretch when he was a 20-something-year-old kid. He worked for John Conte for a bit of time, and he learned what turned out to really help him down the road. So when he looked at a horse when he was with you on TV, and he looked at a horse on the track, he had knowledge, and he was very, very good at it.
I'm going to ask the same question to both of these gentlemen before I let them go. What's the thing that you'll miss most in the wake of the passing of Dave Brower?
just that he won't be there. You know, he was part of our gang. You lose a member of the gang. We were, how long ago was 1988? That's
34 years ago.
that's a long time. How do you find a guy to fill that void? I don't think we're gonna.
And how about you, Les?
Well, Dave lived a mile down the road from me, so we would go out for lunches, dinners. We went to Atlantic City together. We went to Vegas together years back. So, we were companions, and it's going to be hard to replace Dave.
Nick Salvi, Les Stark, I know that you feel the loss very hard. All of us here at the Meadowlands do. But thanks so much for spending a couple of minutes with us and sharing your memories of Dave Brower.